make this in welcome everybody. We'll make this like a little bit interactive. Hopefully we have more people. Supposedly we have at least double more coming. As always, I mean, this will only be replayed for people inside the program. So obviously the people that saw the message, then they're not going to see it on them. As I mentioned earlier also today, with Davida, one thing that I like in these calls is that people get the feedback that they love these calls, meaning like they actually enjoy mindset. But one thing that I see the most of the time, even from people watching replays, is that things such as these things that we're talking about, which is like perfectionism, thoughts, building identities, the actual thing that people don't realize that actually, you know, if we want to say it like that, makes you struggle, it's never really practiced. Meaning like even those ones that are not here like live, when they see the replays, then they maybe practice as once and then they don't practice anymore. And much like drinking more water, gain walks, you know, posting the food, which now I see that a lot of people post, or posting workouts, doesn't get practice. And this is usually where, you know, people end up struggling, because then when we have our calls, we ask, what is really the one thing that made you struggle? And then people either they don't know, or they realize that it's like, oh yeah, I was aware that I did that, but I didn't really know what to do, because obviously there wasn't a proper strategy. And the strategies at times mean like it's hard to make practice a strategy when you're not clear about what the point is. And today, hopefully, we're gonna get clear on what one thing that we struggle, everybody, including myself, and probably maybe not the most qualified person for me to be able to do that with you today. But you know, I really feel like when you're an emotional leader or past emotional leader, and you struggle with these things, you know, making the right choices, understanding why you're making the choices, understanding what is behind it. As a coming from a leading position, I mean, hopefully we can say that I was able to lead most or some of you to a very good place right now. As leaders, we always need to be able to go inside the dark together, and what we struggle with as well, instead of feeling like we're going to be judged. It's interesting sometimes to actually do the work together and say, okay, what can we actually do better? What can we improve? Okay. Now, all of you that I see here, I would say you're all successful already. Okay. So one thing that wanted to make a small little poll, and I want to see what happens to my chat, because why am I not able to see the chat? Does any of you see the chat here? Because usually, oh, there you go. Okay, here. So as always, like we only, at the moment, there is only 6 of us. Let's actually see who are supposed to come on top more on that, because I know that today, I want to see who is supposed to come in this thing. I know there is supposed to be a few new people actually. So hopefully we can, and I just want to do 12% participants. So that more than, yeah. And what I'm going to do now, like real quick, this way we might be able to make this useful. I'm going to, because I just right now went inside the group and I did post the link, and I'm going to tag everyone again. Starting, click the link.
Ik zeg niet van klikken, maar even kijken.
Okay. All right, so welcome again to this call. And for raise, look, you can actually type 1 if you want to know the answer. I just said, in my opinion, coach included, you all been very successful already here, and I want to know, what is it in your opinion that makes you, as clients here, really successful? If you want to know, just keep typing 1, because I want to see if you, or if you feel like you know, then don't type anything. If you don't know, then just type 1. Just so if you know what makes you successful, or what made you successful so far, because there is a distinct difference between people that are here and are actually getting successful versus people that are maybe in the program not as successful, or also maybe not in the program, that obviously they keep doing pretty much the same things. So do you know what is it that makes you successful? Okay, some are coming in. First one. Funnily enough, has to do with, thanks for the description there, Dory. Thanks enough, has to do with the thinking or thoughts that has to do something with thoughts, right? And there is a process that everybody goes through before coming into at least my program. I don't know if program in general when it comes to coaching, but my program is like, obviously we go through an intensive assessment process. And moving forward, I really feel like we just onboarded, I think, 3 people this week. So that's amazing, but we'll make it, I don't want to say harder, but more so logical for people to be able to come in. And one thing that makes people successful is that decide to be successful. So it's a decision versus a choice. And obviously all of you here made that decision, because when we have our first assessment or call, in your mind, I'm betting that there was something of the nature of, if whatever this guy say to me, which I researched, which I maybe probably saw an ad of, which I maybe saw a group of, I saw training of, whatever he says makes sense, I'm going to commit to myself because I decide that I want to be successful. So it's a thought process. And this is kind of like the easy part, because this all you made this decision. Now, secondly, the thing that makes you even more successful is 3 things that you guys are doing probably better than somebody that is less successful or somebody that doesn't engage into any programming thus far. And it's like, number 1, be able to plan. Number 2, be able to be accountable to yourself and filling in things, right? Whatever the strategy says, you have your check-ins, your form that you have to improve on, right? And you have to be very accountable every week, whether you think is a good thing to do, whether you think you did bad. And crazy enough, then obviously you track in your metrics. You're actually saying, okay, what are we doing? Does that make sense so far, yes or no? And those that did it, that all of you here so far have done it, are producing the results that you actually are deserving, basically, right? And again, that has to do with thought, because a lot of things, and of course, a lot of people, not in the program, actually, in general, are told here to do stuff. Like they ask for a resource, they get the resource, and sometimes I follow up with them and I ask, did you watch the resource? Oh, I haven't really done it yet, or I haven't really, or I have to think when I'm going to be able to have time, or what I'm going to do. So basically, it's a lot of thinking going on, yet very little doing. And we know that when sometimes we need to be accountable to a coach or to yourself, sometimes you just don't fill up the form because you know that in your opinion, you didn't do well. You think you didn't do well. And that is also, again, is a thought that goes on. So all this thinking, if you see already in this mind process here, the amount of time that you basically question yourself, whether or not it's something positive or negative, or whether or not you have data to think that's happened, what's happening is like the truth or not. And this is also applied to nutrition, right? I mean, I wanted to make a feasible, something that we can actually measure of an assessment here. I wanted to give you an example that we can use. And one of the things is like thinking like, and I was actually hearing not so long ago a podcast about it. And, the thing, we really overcomplicate things at times, because like when it comes to the nutrition, diets fail for 95% of the time, but not because the diet is bad, but because of the psychological reason, because of things we allow ourselves to believe. Therefore, we have all this thing going on when we say, let's take about level 1 nutrition. Let's talk about intuitive eating for a second. There is books written about it. There is like webinars about it. There is courses for it. When in reality, it's very simple. It's like thinking logically. We take, I don't know, let's say we need to eat 2,000 calories or 15 or 1,600 calories, whatever. We need, I don't know, 3 meals by 500 calories. That would make logical to think that if we do that for a long period of time and your body reacts, you'll get a results. So what I did here, and again, I just wanted to do it like a person that is not on a program would, because I want to really see if this is something that that somebody that doesn't have a coach can do? And obviously the answer is yes, but let's say, where is this? Okay, I got the wrong, hold on, I got the wrong here. Where is my tab that shows the breakfast? Okay, here. So what I did was like, I just went on Google and, I just said, give me breakfast for 500 calories or 300 calories. And this is like breakfast between 3 and 500 calories, right? So we have like a chia seed, toast, some everything seems to be pretty okay with protein, as I made for the first one. And it only makes sense that, again, this is public domain, like you just go on Google and you research that stuff. It only makes sense that if you are a person that get pretty bored with the food that you have to eat, you just get these three breakfasts and you do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you cycle this around twice a week. And then you pretty much cover for 6 days out of 7. So that means like the 7 days you can go and get a pancakes, you can go and get, I don't know, so whatever you want, right? So if you take that, it only makes sense that if you did that with lunch, breakfast, and dinner, you probably be around 1,500 calories, and for most people would be enough to lose weight. Why does this not work most of the time? Why doesn't it work long term? Do you guys know why? Like, you can type it in the chat if you know, if you think what the reason might be, because that's kind of like crazy. Like, now that I'm going to explain what I think it is, then you might say, because I was an emotional eater, so I know why it doesn't work. But and after thousands of people I helped with this, why don't you think this thing works? Come on, get guess, because this is fun, and clients will see the replay. So okay, because you think what you ate is 1. Not sure what you mean, but I mean like you ate more, or you ate less. Is actually it? Oh, okay, and actually you eat fast. So basically you overestimate. Okay, that could be stress, anxiety for me to think. Okay, possibly, right? Any more guesses? You have Davida, Marcela, Coach Dory. What do you think? Like, do you have any guesses why a logical such as it? Because everybody say, oh, intuitive eating doesn't really work. It's like so hard to estimate and has to be perfect. And it's like, maybe it's a little bit more calorie, less calorie. Too little food or calories. I mean, I guess if you need less calorie, right? Or sorry, if you need more calorie, but if you need the right amount, that's not, right? But basically, and this is gonna sound really funny to you, some of you. I mean, maybe for all of you. It doesn't work long term because we don't address the most important times that we do other things that we're not supposed to. Okay, and maybe this resonates. It's like, if we think that, and again, I made kind of a list, but this is kind of like, you say, oh, I just messed up this breakfast today. I didn't really have, so I just might well don't care about the day, and I'm gonna start tracking on Monday, right? No, that's doesn't have to do anything with training. Yes. Eating when you get bored, that's a pretty good guess. Or eating when you get stressed. I had a bad day at work, I'm just gonna eat this cookie that I'm not supposed to eat tonight, and then a cookie turns into 10 cookies. Or I'm not supposed, I just messed up. Yeah, this is me too. It's not just you, Claudia, but me. And this is my personal favorite. Is like, I read that I shouldn't really eat any blueberry or banana that it was on the breakfast. Then it's like, oh, I should just try something else or skip the breakfast. So for things that you allow yourself to believe, okay, or things that you don't manage, things like, again, we talked earlier about things such as holidays coming up, about dinners that you don't factor, things that you don't pay attention to, or maybe things like stuff like Halloween just came, and now that it's in the US, it's going to be Thanksgiving. Thank that we don't, maybe at least where we are in Europe here, most of us don't celebrate that. That would be like 2 holidays. And again, it's like, for things you allow yourself to believe. So diet don't fail because of the nature of the diet, but because they're restrictive, but then you allow yourself to stop. This is kind of crazy. And I made this talk 5 years ago, the first time when we were working with Emotional Eater. And I asked, why do you, let's say you do a diet, because again, even if we're in the program, technically is a nutrition. At most time, when we go into phase 2 intervention, which is like a weight loss, it has to by nature be a restriction. It's just less of a restriction than something longer or bigger, but it's a restriction. And sometimes this works. And we used to have 300 clients at one point, and only for them, some of them to stop and to say, I'm going to go on my own. And then after 5 months or 6 months or maybe 1 year, they come back and they say, what? And I said, what do you think like was the reason why you regained the weight or you stopped the diet? I don't know. They wouldn't be able to tell me what it was. And it's kind of crazy if you think about it, because this is all what you allow yourself to believe. Stuff like, oh, I thought I could just go back and do whatever I wanted. Oh, my body adapted, and then like, it was a little bit too low carb, and now I obviously had to reintroduce more. And I said, but what's going on in that day? Or let's say that the nutrition was balanced, and they went out, or they went for a date night or a dinner night, and they had something more that day. And I said, what's the conversation going on when you do these things? And they wouldn't be able to tell me the conversation. And there is a problem, because number one, you're not aware of the conversation. Number two, you feel like you're not, and this conversation is with yourself, not with somebody. And number two is like you're not really think like you cannot control the food or the conversation. We're making still a food example. And number three is because then again, since that you're not aware of it and you cannot control it, then you allow this thing to happen, and you don't have a plan for next time. Because again, it's not about making a mistake today. It's not about not making the same mistakes so over and over again, if we can call those the same mistakes. And again, it's like when we look at one thing that I did the first time that I made this thing, I wanted to give a visual of what back in the 90s, there was a movie that I watched, I remember that vividly, that people really feel as if they don't have a choice many times, when they cannot choose, they're not in control. And the first time I did this talk, I didn't show the clip, but I did talk about this part. And I remember that specifically. Now I'm going to show it, which I found it in English. This movie, which is Dangerous Mind, and I don't know if any of you saw it. It's back in the 90s, and it talks about a very poor neighborhood in the schools in US, and obviously they're talking about these are, they go to school, but they are not, that these people are almost criminals, because now they're young, but they commit some sort of crimes and everything. And obviously they have the frame, they have to do this thing because they don't have choices, right? And for example, let's say this thing, listen to this piece, because this gives an idea of what you can control in life. And I really feel like you can control a lot.
I mean, you could always choose something. Not where I live.
Did you read that somewhere in his class?
No. In our class, we're reading this book called My Darling, My Hamburger.
My what?
My Darling Hamburger.
Possessive pronoun. Something? Most powerful.
Choose. Callie,
why?
Because that's the difference between owning your life and being afraid. Saying I choose no matter what. You mean like a guy's got a gun to your head and he's pulling the trigger and you say I choose to die? No, you ain't choosing to die, but you can choose to die without screaming, right? I mean, you could always choose something. Not where I live.
Did you read that somewhere?
So if you get the point, and I used this example before, even on the worst situation ever, which could be a condition or something, like you have the choice, or you can make decisions on how you tackle these things. And this is a pretty good principle that I'd love everybody to adopt. That is like, even though you might feel like, your identity says that's me, that's how I think, you can always choose to do something else. And chances are it will serve you really well. Because like, if you are not where you need to be, thinking or framing things like you are now, probably doing something else can help you. Yeah, and sometimes we don't just see the possibilities. We just think, oh, we don't have a choice. We just should just, that's us. That's the way I think. That's the way I process things. And like, basically, this is what I think personally. And I remember I used this example before. Now, if moving forward, we make this example about the food, there is really only few things that we need to kind of like unpack into be able to see our thoughts. First and foremost, if you already know that you're doing something that technically or like is a behavior that you have, and technically you are aware of that, chances are you're way advanced. Because like, again, when you don't know, it's kind of a problem. Like when you don't know, somebody needs to kind of like point it out. And again, this can be, and again, we're not gonna make examples of obviously people not here, but for example, there is people inside the program that has a hard time, for example, like getting measurements and taking pictures and putting inside the app or stuff like that. And when I ask about it, then it's like, the thing is more so like of the nature of, oh, but I don't want to see myself. I don't want to take my picture of myself. I don't like that, right? Or when I go out some places and then I feel like people turning around and watching me and they judging me. So you get enough data when you say that to say like, maybe they turn around because you're hot, or maybe they turn around because they want to say something bad to you, or maybe they're just turning around because they're just watching the clock. You got the same amount of point data to assess that when you say that. When you say things such as, oh, I don't want to do that because I don't think it's useful, like I made the example about the check-ins before, many people don't do it because they don't think that's what they need. Again, the thought is kind of limiting data, is limiting the fact that the last thing we know about you, and chances are that's happening in things in your life too, in general stuff, in work, some maybe happening in work, happening in private, maybe when you go out with your friends, or maybe if you have kids. You really want to be paying attention to the behavior that you're doing at the moment when it comes to awareness, because sometimes we just live in a autopilot. There was another movie that now I just remember this example right now. Did anybody see, I think it's called Life on a Click with Adam Sandler, which I love Adam Sandler movie because it's like, the guy is funny, but all the movies has something that has to do with, there is always a message behind the movie. There's always something that's okay, I want to give the audience a message. And the message is like, sometimes we live in this autopilot type of mode. It was like a movie that it was a little bit sci-fi, that you found this remote control. And it's like, it was so stressful, right? And why am I seeing this thing? This thing is like, that's crazy. It was somebody gave me like a thumbs up. So there is always like this autopilot that we live into because we're stressed because of this and because of that. And then we say, that movie said, oh, I could potentially just fast forward the bad things, the bad time about my life. The worst one, I'm gonna fast forward. Can I just fast forward when I get a promotion? Can I just get there and I can just get to the nice thing about my life? Needless to say that obviously he find himself like very old. Parents have passed away. He doesn't even realize when they passed away. He found himself like the life it just went by, and he didn't enjoy because of the thing he allows yourself to believe. And obviously the good part of the movie, I don't want to spoil it. I mean, you should really go watch it. But this was all a dream. But realistically, that's something that happens all the time. We don't live in the present moment. We live on a autopilot. It's like, oh, we're so used to, okay, we need to be in social media. I mean, me that I work there, but like in general, you need to be in few examples here. Maybe Claudia needs to go to dance. So I need to be, I don't care about anything else. I need to be on a dancing thing. You know, maybe somebody else, Marcela or Davida or Lamis, I need to be in this, I'm so stressed because I'm scared that, you know, they're not going to like me in my new job, or maybe I need to go to my job now and it's so stressful, then I have to pick up the kids. And it's like, it's all there is a lot of thinking here, and all these thoughts mess you up on a daily basis. Why wouldn't you be able to plan 3 breakfasts and do this over and over again? Because we allow all the problems to eat you in the face. Pam, pam, pam. It's like constantly. It's thinking. It's like, oh, and then like the worst part is like when you feel like that you're doing something that is wrong. Or that you feel like, oh, I think they think that this is, and again, it's like, it's all a bunch of thoughts. And it's funny, this is why I said before, I said, I don't even know if I'm resonating now, because like, I am as much part of that as you are. So I don't even know if I'm the right person be able to help you with this. But at least I want to give you a framework and what kind of like, for an extent, what is working to me, because I feel like I'm still in deep water with this, like myself. And this is helping me a lot for at least the emotional eating part, if you want to call it that. And we need to come up with a framework. And the framework is simple. It's like, number one, there are things that you need to be aware of. Number one, we need to, for once, to really stop feel like we are in a bubble wrap life, meaning like you need to get out of the comfort zone. There was a call that we did in the past that was talking about comfort and discomfort. I need you guys to go back, watch that again, which is like in another site or inside usually the group, and practice that one, because I don't really feel I saw enough practice of that one. Meaning like, how do you get uncomfortable on a daily basis? You know, back on the days, and I know that your days is kind of like my days, because some of us more or less the same age. We grow up in a way, at least on my here, that when we go to the gym, there was no internet. We just went and we did the hard work. And it's like, we know that we have to like eat well if you want to get a result. There is no, if you fit your macro, or there is no quick stuff. There is not all the technology we have now. There is not all the products we have now. We literally can make pancakes that taste well now, that as long as you eat a few, you make a few tweaks, it's going to be functional for you. We can have, you know, diet pop is also present in the past, but like now we have the clarity that those things doesn't hurt us technically. Like there are so many more things now that you don't need to really be like, you have, in my opinion, we got a lot more advantage, yet the world is not becoming any smarter. And why is because, again, because people don't connect with the fact that this one issue that we have isn't an information issue, is an application implementation issue. Meaning like, why can't we implement what we know we should do? Because we are not able to constantly suffer in a good way, like that, like not like we, I made the example on the video. I just saw that the saw X is like, we don't need to kind of like cut off our legs to learn that we need to do better. We don't need that much of a suffering, but we do kind of like need sometimes to deal with cravings when we have to. We need sometimes to ask ourselves, do I really need that piece of chocolate? Do I need it for real? It's raining today. I should go walking. I'm not really going. I'm gonna go tomorrow. Isn't it worth just to go for a little bit? Because that's basically getting out of the comfort zone. I use a very extreme example inside of my call, which was for the running, because if you, let's say that right now I should probably focus on maybe losing some weight first myself and then run, because otherwise like the joint is also taking a hit. But then when you start running, I said, could you technically run 6 minutes instead of 5? Are you dying if you do that? And if you're not, chances are it's just a comfort zone thing. It's a mind thing that you have to improve. So with this being said, funnily enough, comfort zone is one of the problems. The second thing, and again, this is, and I know that some of you have worked with also with Massimo, and this is one thing that he does, and it's something that I really advocate big time, and not only to realize that you need to do that, but to do it, is creating space for yourself in times that you have to do it. Meaning like, some of you are moms. I mean, probably most of you, actually, maybe almost all of you. Then if you have kids, you know that kids sometimes they wake up really early. So you don't have a lot of time for yourself, for real. So what do you need to do? Maybe wake up, put the clock maybe 20 minutes earlier, sit down and do some of the meditation we'll talk about in a second, and then just put a bubble around yourself and say, this is my 30 minutes for myself. Even if your son, daughter come inside and it's like, hey, I'm gonna talk to you like in 5 minutes. This is mom's time now for 30 minutes. Because like when you do that, you put a bubble around yourself. And if you do that correctly, like I said before, planning everything, including the calls that you have with your significant other, with your work, with the, you know, the things that you have to do, the time in between you going to the gym and picking up kids or whatever. Like whenever you plan all that and you execute on the plan, then that's very logical. It's almost like a shield that you put around yourself, a virtual, that when you eat like crazy enough, it's like when I do that, I create space for myself, and I try to do it every time before I wake up. I try to wake up at least an hour or two before I have to do anything else. And either I read, I meditate, or I do that virtually. I'm like watching the sky and like inside the room, and I'm like, this is my time and nothing can hurt me. If you need music, you put music. If it's like it's a bubble around you that then when you eat, when you just go then for the life on the day, and then like problem eats you again, and it's like you're like, oh, I have the equipped, I'm equipped to deal with that deal, instead of just saying, oh, this stresses me now, I need to go, because then you stress more, and then there is more problem stressing you, and then all these thoughts is like anxiety. I think Lami said it before, when you have stress and anxiety, which is also for me, by the way, that creates, when I do the stress test now with the HVR, then I see that I'm constantly, maybe out of 40 times, maybe 35 times I'm stressed. And imagine I'm working with that stuff. Imagine if you didn't do any of the work. Imagine if you just say, I'm just going to allow this to hit me on the face every day. That's more problematic. Like you can see, it's like, and this is another thing, the thought of many people has that say, oh, I'm just doing the work. And I said it, I'm not going to make names, but I had to fire a few people from this program. I had to say, hey, maybe isn't the right coaching program for you, because, you know, despite you being a very, very lovely person, and I respect you a lot, and I really like you a lot, I don't think that's a good fit, because you just saying to me, hey, I'm not really able to give up what I know I should. But also you saying, hey, I just did it for 2 weeks. I give up on, I stopped running or going to bike for 2 weeks, or classes for how come I'm not seeing the results? And I've been here, I don't know, 3 months or 4 months, and I'm not seeing the results. And a lot of people is easier than me. And it's like, I say, hey, I don't know, how long have you took to create the problem in the first place? Well, I know a few years, 6-7 years. Is it logical for you to think that in 3 months we can fix 5 years? Maybe. Coach Dory did it, but like not everybody has very much discipline or good genetics. Some people struggle, including myself. And so when I see that, I'm like, hey, I don't think we can help you, not because like we don't have the right system, because you don't have the right thinking method. Like you really are so obsessed about this thing you have to get now, and you want it yesterday, and you don't want to put in the work, and you're not willing to give up the things you love to do. And so more power to you, because you need to do in life what you want to do. But then you lose the right to complain about it, because realistically, it's like we are not miracle maker. We cannot deal with physiology. Like if your body needs a year to put a problem together or fix a problem, provided you provide me all the information, which at times it doesn't, because like when people start not to getting check-ins, not to making measurements, not to doing, and I said in this particular case, I asked, just provide me some blood labs, go get some blood lab. BIA wasn't an option. One thing wasn't, like the stress test was, because nobody's like, my daughter has an iPhone, but I don't think I can get it's like so many thoughts. It's like, oh no, this doesn't work. It's like your mentality is like, we cannot help you. Like you're not giving me the tools. And on top of that, I don't want to take away from your life. I want to give to your life. I want to kind of like give what you like. And so therefore, you see how our thoughts, in my opinion, are the biggest problem. So creating space for yourself. Whoever works with Massimo, I eager you to, whenever you have a call with Massimo, by the way, get back at him, maybe like 2 weeks, 2 months or whatever, if you're not doing it already. And the guy's going to be super busy, as by nature is always is always like over busier than what makes you believe that he is. But then he always get back at you. But one thing I like about him, and I said initially, I said, I think maybe you can help some of them out, aside from the fact that you probably have more mindset skill and in certain stuff, especially on difficult stuff, maybe that I have, but it's his ability to hold you accountable. So if you don't get back at Massimo, I know that it's not because he doesn't care. It's because you feel like you almost like failing, or you're not doing what you're supposed to do, which is kind of a problem, because it's like, again, thing we talked about at Davida before, I said, you never have to feel like you're judged from us ever in a program. And you have to overuse your coach, because we're here, like, that's why we are here. We're not here to give you just macros. We're here to, those times that you feel, oh, it's difficult, I'm about to do something in 2 days, I'm going somewhere, how should I behave? We just have a new client not so long ago. She lost quite a weight in just a few weeks. And I said, how can I tackle I'm going to travel for a week. How can I tackle that? And I came up with a plan for her, like step by step, 3 steps. Of which saying, know your measurements before and after and see what happens even if you do the worst that you should. And of course, she maintained. But why did she? Because like she was very aware of the problem. She was aware of what's going to happen. What do I do? The plan. And then, of course, if you tackle this, and even if you travel every week or every other week, you would have a plan to travel. What doesn't work is like, hey, I traveled last week, I just gained 5 kilos back, which I lost a month ago. Next time, I'm just going to do better. This rarely works. And this is why I make, before the example, I said, anytime something happened to you the day before or is about to happen and you know it's about, number one, be aware. Number two, eat us up, like message us, me, Dori, whoever coach is, because it's like, we're able to give our perspective of what we feel like you should do. At least you're going to have a plan. And of course, then it's about executing the plan. It's about seeing how did the plan work, good or bad, and how can we improve on the plan? Because this is the only thing that really makes a difference. This is why diet don't work, by the way. It's not just anything wrong with keto or anything wrong with, I I'll make a video about it, or I'm going to make a reel about it. I know that because I want almost like put that awareness out in the marketplace. And it's like, in my personal opinion, even when you're 40 or 50, when you have even if this is another thing we talk, one thing you guys ask, elimination diet, right? Elimination diets are good for autoimmune disease. So if you have a thyroid issue or autoimmune disease, my blinker like that is like, okay, maybe we should consider elimination diet. But I truly, honestly believe is 20%. I got suggest from my colleague that I should supposed to eat a small, for example, amount of carb, and from another colleague that sells supplements, which is also 2 researchers, imagine that, I got suggested I should eat less animal protein, more vegetable protein, and then a lot more starches, only to be the right type of starch that he sells. Meaning, like, in other words, let's hopefully stay ethical, but it's like, let's say that these products are still the best ever. There are 2 complete different opposite options. And it's kind of crazy, because it's like, if that was so important, then there will only be one in the marketplace. So the thing is that I truly believe, honestly, that even if you got the wrong strategy, which is 20%, and you do 80% right, then you succeed. 80% right, in my opinion, is like habits, personal preference, logistics, and consistency. Yeah? Which habits replace motivation, routines and habits will replace motivation. But then consistency is like, are you the person that when you don't see results, you stop? Are you the person that doubt yourself? Because I am. Like I do that in business. I do that in everything, but I do it too. It's like, and I know that's a real thing. It's not something that I'm immune to it, but it's like, do you question yourself when you don't see results? Because that's like something that is like, it's a thought. Yeah. And then like, because if you stay consistent, if you have your habits, if you logically think what you're doing makes sense, then you can only succeed. And again, you should start being aware about the thoughts, though, because thoughts can literally slow you down. And we know that when we slow down, it's kind of annoying. It's kind of like take part of us not being really sustainable. So we create space for ourselves. We get out of the comfort zone. And then what is really important is to start seeing these thoughts, start seeing them. First, being aware, seeing them, like literally realizing on the moment, hey, I'm fucking up right now before I'm doing it, not later that you did it. So this requires, and this is the only way I know how to do it. And obviously I learned this from you can research it if you want. It's called Jason Saib, and probably one of the, you'll never be the most famous coach or richer coach for sure. It's just a regular guy, but it's so much depth into psychology. I love his content, and I did one time a course there, and this is where I learned this kind of thing, and it's like, fuck, this thing works. And like, let me see if I can pull up the chart, and I'll say, I think this is what I wanted to show you. This is actually powerful. And I was like, there is something that I need to show that I forgot what it was. And let's see if I can pull it up, because this is real. Because I believe I showed a stress test, and then I got like, we know stress is bad. We know stress make us struggle to lose weight. In fact, it's sometimes where you have an inverted cortisol curve, we know that that's the limitation, and that's one of my limitation, aside from the fact that I need to improve tons of stuff. But the cortisol, and that's a stress, and then we know how now to measure it, right? We have one of these, and we measure, right? And I measure like, not one time, you need to measure, like I measured it 40 times for me. And I know that I talked to my colleague, and it's like, even if you get the stress down to normal level, you need to be there for 3 to 6 months. So that's another thing. It's like, I thought, fuck, maybe I fix it in a week. No, it's like, you need to change your lifestyle. You need to understand the root cause of the stress. The same thing, I am in the belief that when I show you something, you're going to believe it's true, because you know that you read about that meditation is great. You read about that you need to relax. You read about that you need to create space. You probably heard it so many times, like you have all these apps about it. But people don't actually know what it does, and don't actually believe what it does. And this is basically what it does. And this is pretty powerful, yeah? Formation of the brain, okay? This is like the neural unmyelinated axons. This is the things in the brain, okay? This is basically your cells of the brain, and they're like, you know, when they think, and like, you know, we all think, we know we are all electricity. This is unfortunately why when somebody gets a tumor in the head, like this is pretty much done, because like it's so advanced and such a difficult thing. And look at that difference between a work of meditation before and after. This is quite impressive if you watch it. Like, you see not only the size, but you also see the brightness. And they did study about this stuff, that when you do this work, and this is not the work that you're like guided meditation, that you relax and you're like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's actually hard work. When you do this work for 3 to 5 minutes a day, then you get this kind of development. And what it does inside, also, you're not going to cut your head and like check inside how it is. You will see your things happening, like you'll be aware on the moment of the thing that happens to you, on the thing that you're doing. So once again, let's do all this thing together. And you can take on the camera, off, whatever you want. Like, as long as you try, I think that's pretty useful. This is how I do it. 3 minutes. You close your eyes, okay? You focus on your breath. Try to do it. That's gonna help you out. In and out. Try to be very centered. Try to actually think. I'm going in, out, in, okay? At some point, you will start feeling like you're thinking on something else. Something is gonna come up from the day. Something will be like that you just did today. Something that stressful thing. Something that you, some random thoughts, maybe some cool stuff, some bad stuff, that person that got you stressed today. As soon as, and this could happen within 30 seconds or maybe a couple of minutes, as soon as this happens, and you realize that you're thinking about something else, you're going to take this thought and you're like, oh, I'm meditating right now. I need to go back to my breathing. So you want to be focusing on that. And the first time you might not feel anything. Maybe the third time you're not going to feel, but after 5, 6, 7 times, you will learn how to focus on your breathing. And like every time you're thinking about something else, you just realize, and it's like, oh, I'm meditating right now. I should go back to my breathing. Okay? This is the type of meditation you should do, which is not guided, which is not meant to relax you. You can do it standing up or sitting up, or you can also do it laying down, depending if you do it on the morning or in the evening. 3 hours cumulative of this one over time could be, guy can stop if you want, I see. still going, some of you. 3 hours cumulative. That means like not that you have to do 3 hours in a week or 3 hours no, 3 hours throughout the whole time that you're doing it. So obviously if you do 5 minutes, it's a little bit of work. That can change the formation of the brain. What you just saw, 3 hours, that's been proven in a study. They actually take people that pass away, they open up their skull and they actually see the difference between it. Somebody that was doing meditation, obviously probably before passing on or whatever, 3 hours. This is kind of impressive. Okay, so that's what's going to allow you to start seeing your thoughts. And this is what I would love to see in the group. I would like for you to say, post about, since now we're posting also about our water this week, posting about, hey, I did the meditation. I'm doing 3 minutes meditation today. Who else is doing the meditation? So you want to be accountable that you're doing this thing, right? And then you want to be telling me probably in a month from now, what does that do to you? Because like I can assure you it's going to make a difference. Not about the food, not about I see when I have to do the right or wrong choices. How about how you react to people? How do you talk to people? Are you managing your emotion better when you're not reacting in a way with somebody? So that's really quite illuminating to me, because like I did it several times and it's something that I try to be consistent with. Of course, consistency is still always an issue, but that's part, it's like saying that I'm going to work out. The last part, and obviously this is kind of like more important. When you see your thoughts, how do you do? Well, by nature, if it's a constant bad thought that you have, you want to be weeding out the thought, meaning like you realize the thought is there, the behavior is there that you do, and it doesn't make any sense, and it's not helping you. You want to be making a new thought, meaning like something, reframing that thought, and then of course getting rid of that if you can. And sometimes you cannot. The other thing you want to be doing, and this is kind of like conversation, like I said, we had before today, when we're talking about emotional eating, is something like it's called mindful deviation, or like mindless deviation, meaning like deviation is like you're not supposed to go towards the path and you deviate away. And for example, it could be, I'm not supposed to eat this food, or not supposed to drink. What are the benefits for me eating the food or drinking? It's like, okay, not many, aside from the taste. What is the benefit, positive reinforcement, that I'm not eating that? Okay, I'm going to sleep better. I'm going to probably get to my results faster. I'm going to probably feel lighter. I'm going to probably not having this hangover next day, right? But sometimes you have to make decision based on, and again, we use examples here. If you have something that you have not done for a while, and you have friends coming in town that you never see, or parents or family, and they say, hey, with me, let's just drink this, I don't know if you guys drink, but let's drink this wine together. Let's do that. If that's happening only once, right? You're like, you want to be thinking about that, and you're like, okay, it only happens once. Am I today in a position to be able to drink 1 glass of wine, if that's what I want? Because again, we talk about buffer and trigger food. Somebody just had 1 glass of wine, and it almost acts as it takes away the hunger. It's actually positive, right? So they can have the glass of wine. Some other people, they grab the glass of wine, they drink the whole bottle. Yeah, and sometimes that depends from your state of mind of the day. How stressful was it? What happens throughout the day? If you're in a position to get that choice, and you're like, okay, I'm thinking I'm gonna get a glass of wine, you want to be asking yourself, is this a mindless deviation or a mindful deviation? It's like, is it worth for me to get this glass of wine with this person that I never see? Well, probably yes. Is it worth to get a glass of wine with a person that I see every week, and as much as I get it this week, I can do it next week? Probably not. So you want to be minimizing these options, but you always want to make this conversation bigger. You've seen the thought first, seen something happening in the moment. You've seen, this is kind of crazy. Now I realize if I do that, this thing comes up. This is AI. This is crazy, unbelievable. So it's quite funny. It's making me crack up. But anyway, you want to be realizing the moment, the thought, and you want to be using that to make a conversation. The conversation, the first time, is going to be maybe 5 minutes. Then the conversation can extend to 10 minutes. And then if you all the time do the right things, then the conversation can extend to as long as it takes for you to do a better choice. And this is why I said, if you have a specific situation that you don't have normally inside the program, meaning like, provided you have the right strategy and you feel like it is, you still fall for the same things like, I don't know, eating out or not knowing what to do when you're traveling or not knowing if you're doing the right things. And like, you need to reach out to us and make the specific examples so that we can advise. And this is quite going to make a difference between you being consistent. And we know that if you're consistent, you get the results. That's it for this particular thing. I think like that's a lot to unpack, and I eager you to see the replay inside the website. And with this being said, I'm going to open up for question. Of course, if you have question about this or question about anything, does anybody has any question? We have 20 minutes or so to go. We can actually dive deep into some of the things if you want it. Anybody? Anything? Dori is gone. So Marcela, Davida, Lamis, I'm not sure. You leaving, Dori? You have to leave? Cannot hear you. Yes.
I just want to say good night to my son for a sec.
Oh, no problem. Yes, yes. No.
Yeah, oh, and now I have to close the door. Sorry.
So okay, good. So if we have questions, we can just address those. If not, we're good to go. That was interesting. You have a framework now. You can get to work on this. This is really important. Again, all this mindset call only makes sense if you use them and get some work, because it's not as easy as just, you know, go do a bicep curl or, you know, a squat, but it's the same thing. It's kind of like bicep for your brain. It's a little bit that, you know. Anybody has to say anything, because otherwise it's getting pretty late. Let me know if you want to share anything or ask anything. Obviously, we're here. Nobody? You're all good? Was that such a good presentation? Come on, this is hard stuff, by the way. And of course, we're always there to assist you like specifically. But again, this is one thing that you might want to do some work with. And if you want to ask anything or share anything, this is the time. Lamis as well, Davida, Claudia, Marcela, nobody? No question about this? Seems to be no. Okay, fantastic then. So hopefully this was helpful. You'll see this replay inside the website. And let me know if you have anything else. And again, one more time, if you want this addressed particularly, you can address this in your check-ins, or also if you're not in a check-in or it's not coming up and you constantly have something like this happening to you, then just reach out, just let us know. And of course, also if you happen to add a call with Massimo, talk to him about this, because that's really the type of work that he also does anyway. So it's really about being able to see your thoughts. And again, if we just got better, a couple of 1% or 2% each day, will go a long way inside our results, because like we all are struggling with this. And I know how hard this is. Okay, fantastic. So I wish you an amazing night. And obviously, we're always here if you need us. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Take care. Bye-bye.